Got to get my engine on here, and I'm an old geezer, so I'm going to be struggling with this one. So I just thought I'd show you. I'm going to get the frame off here first, and I'll just put it over here on my table to start with. Just move this book. I'll put this over here because this is finished, this is painted. There we go. See, that's lovely there, isn't it, eh? Right. And now, right then. So let's get the engine off the floor on there. The GPZ engine weighs around 65 kilos, 130 pounds or something, so yeah. I mean, I've done it enough times. It's heavy, it's awkward. Okay. Take the lid off because that's loose anyway. Put that there. Right. The thing is, it's not just heavy, it's bloody rotten dirty, isn't it? So just go for it. Pick it up that way. I haven't had my breakfast this morning, have I?
Oh, poop.
Can't do it, can't get it up there. Man loses his marbles after pouring his coolant into his shoe. Unfortunately, I didn't show you me doing it. Maybe it was fortunate for me, the way I was grunting and groaning at this thing, but I got it on the table, so now we can work on it. I just realised I've lost a couple of rubber bungs. Oh, I found one in there. Oh, they're all fine. Right, guys, well, today I'm going to be looking at this engine, and I won't be doing too much with it. It will basically just get a clean up, and I will be doing the valve clearance checking. I've never seen this engine run, so I know nothing about this engine. So I'm going to be doing valve clearances, adjustment if required, check the cam chain. I will be looking at the cam chain tensioner, just make sure that it's okay. I'll be rotating the engine to have a look at all the lobes on the cams. As I say, I've got no idea about this engine, so I'm just going to be checking as much as I can. Doing things like measuring the pickups, making sure that they're working correctly, and just give it a general clean. So you have your rocker cover, which you all recognise, okay, and there are these two strange looking pieces here on the top, which not everyone will. Okay, and there has these two strange pieces on the top that not everyone will recognise. If I just take that off and show you. Now what that's all about, it's all about the emissions control. This is a US model, this bike, and I'm aware that they all have this, the so-called California models. And what it's all about is, in the engine, and I will now take my phone camera and show you. So, okay, so in the engine, we have two holes here, and two holes here, which you might not be able to see up there, but you will be able to see here in this camera I am now showing you. Right, and these holes come straight from the exhaust manifold. And the exhaust fumes are dragged up these holes. They are pulled up because through the vacuum system there are two hose pipes that come to a valve here, and the valve goes to the air box, and through a vacuum system the emissions are pulled up through here back into the air box and then fed through the carburetors and are reburnt. So it's all to do with like a double burn system to clean the emissions. I was thinking of doing away with this and putting a normal rocker cover on to turn off that system, but what I don't know is if I can just blank off these holes. So I've decided I will keep the head, this rocker cover, and fit that emission system, which you will obviously see at another point. But that's what that's about. I just wanted to let you know about that. So take that off, put that to one side. Let's just turn this engine round. Well, once again, we've been here before. This is certainly not a new thing for us. Now, obviously you're looking from the front, so it's a bit of a reverse picture for you. But we have cylinder 1, 2, 3 and 4, intake cam, exhaust camshaft. Now, the oil lines that cross over, this is an oil line, this is an oil line. They have these little rubber caps on, so when the rocker cover is on, they sit on that. I don't want to lose them, so I'm going to take them off now, put them to one side, these little tiny rubber things. This is a point of interest. These oil lines are just pushed on. There are O-rings. Later models, I believe, are screwed in, but I'll leave them on. I don't need to take them off. So what I want to do is check the valve adjustment, and I'm just going to do it and just sort of explain to you what I'm doing as I go along. It's not going to be like a real editorial on this. I've spoken about this quite a few times. So yeah, let's just, what I want to do is take the side cover off because I want to get a tool on there so I can turn the engine. So let's get the side cover off. That's two 8mm bolts. And underneath this side you have your pickups, which I could actually measure to check to see if they're okay. Checking that is quite easy. I've explained that in another video, how to check those. All you need is a multimeter, but I'll do that at another time. I just wanted to get to the nut here at the side so that I can rotate the engine, just so you know what I'm talking about. I'll show you what was under that lid that I just took off. So I've just taken that side cover off, and I just want to show you what's underneath that side cover. And underneath that side cover I have this silver piece here. That's the pickups, which I will measure later. There is the rotor. This is what gives the coils the signal to ignite. But I just needed to get to this nut, because this nut under here is what I will put a socket on to turn the engine. And you always turn the engine in its designated direction, in this case clockwise, because I want to check the cams. I want to make sure that the lobes are all okay, and I want to be able to look under the lobes at the rockers. I just want to check there's no pitting anywhere, so that's why I've taken the cover off. So let me just check that. All my sockets were in a right mess until my mate Kevin came along and sorted them out for me. So I'm just going to have a look at all of these cam lobes to see if they're okay, or if I need to replace them. As always, I like to get my book out. I've done the valve clearances so many times, but it's always still nice to have something to refer to. So the Hand's manual states that the valve clearance and adjustment is to be done every 6,000 miles or 10,000 kilometers. I don't think we do it that regularly, or maybe some of us do more. But I like to keep the bookwork open just to keep my eye on that. And says the engine must be completely cool to do this. I think we've established that. And the next thing we need to do is, they talk about removing pickups and coils and stuff, but we're obviously that far already. So what they're saying is start with number 1 intake clearance valves. The number 1 intake is here. This is where we're going to start. And we need to put the engine in a certain position, which I'm going to do now. And just to remind myself, position the number 1 piston on the left side of the engine at the top dead center of the compression stroke. Do this by turning the crankshaft with a wrench. Place the crankshaft nut, which I've just done down here, until the TDC mark on the rotor is aligned with the timing mark on the crankcase. So let me just turn that. So turning the engine until the TDC mark, which is the T, is in line with the crankcase marking. Okay, and you see the rotor up here, just there. That's also in line with what the book states. There's the rotor there. TDC mark must be upwards. That means that you're in TDC, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the compression stroke. And to check that you're in the compression stroke, it goes on to say that check the position of the camshaft sprockets, that's these here. And the in and the X marks should be pointing towards each other. And that is seen from this side, not that side, this side. On the camshaft sprockets, there are in and X marks, and you see that this one here is outside here. And this marking, I don't know if you can see it, it's not very bright. Well, it's on the outside here as well, so they're not in the correct position. So we're at TDC but in the wrong stroke, so I have to keep turning until we're in the right position. So I'll turn one more rotation until my T mark is exactly in line with the mark. So I'll just show you again. There you go, the T mark is exactly where it was just a second ago. But now, the in mark is there, and the X mark is there. So now they're facing each other. Okay, so they have to be facing each other, which they are. And that puts you in the correct position. Cylinder number 1 at TDC. On its compression stroke, and now we're in a position where we can check these 4 valves, these 2, and these 2. So I'll just get my feeler gauges out. This is cylinder 1, inlet valves, outlet valves, and the tolerances should be 0.13 and 0.18 millimeters. So 0.13 and 0.18. I don't have a 1.3 or a 0.13 or a 0.18, but what I do have, let's see this, can you see this? There's a 0.15 and a 0.2. And what I do is I put the 0.15 in, and that should drag, and the 0.2 shouldn't fit at all. So let's see what happens. You put it in between the valve stem and the valve. There we go. That fits in. That goes just in. It's a bit tight actually, so let's check the other one. Right, but it does go in. Drags nicely. But it's so tight that I guarantee that the 0.2 that I have, just to check, will definitely not go in there. Right, so it's like a go no go gauge, which means these are perfectly fine. And on the other side, it's 0.18 to 0.23, and I have three gauges: the 0.15 and the 0.2 for this side, and for the exhaust side, I just take away the 15 and go from 0.20 to 0.25. So the 0.2 wants to go in, but the 0.25 doesn't. So I'll just check that that goes in first. It does on both of them. It's a bit tight here. Can I get it in? Oh, no. I'll check this one here. 0.25 doesn't go in, so that's not too big. Well, obviously won't go in. So let me see what happens if I put the 15 in. If that's like really loose, then I'll leave it. Now this is a bit tight, this one. This needs adjusting. This does need adjusting. It's far too tight. So that exhaust valve needs adjusting, and the way to do that is get yourself a nice 10mm ring. I think it's a 10mm. I'll just check for the lock nut. Sorry, it's 8mm. So I've undone the lock nut, and what I need to do is there is a special tool from Kawasaki to get on here to turn that. Now there's so much crud on here that when you undo the lock nut, it automatically moves the middle pin. Let me just clean that up before putting that in, otherwise I won't be able to make an adjustment. I'm giving that a bit of a clean up. So now this screws in and out cleanly. There was all stuck together to start with. Screw it back in. Now I've screwed that back in, I have to certainly do the adjustment now, and I want a 0.2 to fit. I screwed it in far too much, it won't fit in, so let me just take that out a little bit. With the correct Kawasaki tool this would be much easier, but not everybody has one of those, so you just have to use what you can get your hands on. It's about here. Now I know I'm going to leave that in there to give me a little bit of support. Now what I have to do is hold that top pin here like this, exactly in this position, and with my spanner I need to do up the lock nut. There we go. So that's now been tightened up. Just do a recheck. The two just about fits in there. 25, no chance. So that one's okay. So there's all our valves checked, and what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Just looking in my book here. So I will try to do a voiceover, because once again my microphone is flat as a pancake, and I'm just explaining now that I'm going to check my pickups to check that they work. I'm just pointing to the position of the pickups, and at the end of this wire we have a blue and a black stripe wire and a yellow and a black wire, which correspond to each of the pickups, and by putting your multimeter across the pins in the plug you can measure the resistance across each of the individual pickups. So set your multimeter to ohms, take your plug
and get your prongs. The left pickup, that is the yellow and black wire, and I'm now going to just stick my prongs in this plug, which luckily I was clever enough not to show you properly on the camera, and measure the resistance. I had a small problem getting the prongs in initially because it's a bit fiddly when you're trying to stick these little pins inside the plug, but I did actually manage to get a reading in the end, and I was looking for something around 500 ohms. I do believe the Haynes manual says something a bit lower, up to about 460, but I do know by experience that they do tend to be a bit higher with age anyway, and this was around 550, 560. That's alright for me, I'm happy with that. And I then went on to check the other two pins, so the right hand pickup of the two, and I believe it was a similar reading. Just messing about with this pin here, just put that in there, and the battery went flat on my multimeter as well, so it was giving me erratic readings, but it did eventually give me a reading of around 550, 600. Screen's gone dead. So they were exactly the same, around 550, 560. That's okay by me. I will be able to use that, so I'll be putting these into operation. So I'll be leaving them on the bike, and that was that. So I really should sort my gear out. Sometimes I have a problem with this microphone and I just don't notice it, to be honest, so it's good as in my pocket. So I'm just going to clean up now, put my tools away, and yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying here, to be honest. I think I was just saying thanks for watching me waffle on about my engine. Thumbs up if you'd like to, and yeah, please subscribe to the channel to see more nonsense. Bye bye guys.